Hi, my name is Rosalinda Igwe, founder of Hook Marriage Back Academy, found in hookmarriageback.com. Get your spouse hear you. Jesus answered them, "Do not grumble among yourselves." John chapter 6 verse 43. Instead of grumbling over a situation, talk to God about it in prayer and be specific with that which bothers you when you pray to God. When you cultivate an attitude of telling God everything that bothers you in prayer, you are simply recognizing his Godship over your marriage. You are simply recognizing his headship over your relationship, because Jesus is interested in marriage. Remember, he instituted marriage in the first place, and he expects you and your spouse to work with him because he is the head of your home. So when you are facing any challenge in your marital relationship and you call on him, he will always show up for you in difficult times and will give you help that you need. So aside from that, you will also enjoy peace in your marriage and have a spiritual backup, which is God. So, and when you also check James chapter 5 verse 9, it says, "Do not grumble against one another, brothers, so that you may not be judged. Behold, the judge is standing at the door." James 5 verse 9. Complaining about your partner's behavior is common in any long-term relationship. For instance, a female spouse complains to her husband that he doesn't spend quality time with her, and on the other hand, he complains to her about her extravagant attitude, which is bothering him. So he's not thinking about what his wife is thinking. Rather, he's thinking about that which is upsetting him about her. So it can be incredibly provoking when your complaints fall on deaf ears, right? So, and that is why you have to always don't judge. No matter how angry you are, no matter how angered you are, you try not to conclude easily, not to judge, not to grumble. Try to find out what the roots of the problem is before, and because once you know the root of the problem, you certainly and definitely know how to solve that problem in your relationship. So, what if there is a way for both of you to comfortably express your emotions, hear each other's complaints in an effective way without grumbling or disputing, possibly in a way that you both could take it in and make real changes instead of ignoring, dismissing, or being defensive or offensive against each other. There'll always be a way out, okay? When you find your spouse acting wrongly or had refused to take correction and things are being stirred up for the both of you, each time you want to talk about that which upsets you, you have to learn how to hold your anger in grantia. Enter your room. This is something I love to do. If I'm angry, if I find myself angry over a thing, that's not the right time to talk, to blow off. No. I know that there are a lot of people that have different different techniques of handling their anger level, and that you will also learn in anger management course. and you'll be able to learn how to handle your anger. But for me, instead of um exchanging words and try to heat things up, I rather enter my room, lock up myself. Sometimes, most times, yeah, I go on my knees, I present that which bothers and upset me to God. And after doing that, I felt at ease. You have to learn how to present your matter before God and ask Him for His guidance towards resolving any matter at all. Okay? He will give you counsel each time you come to Him. He loves to help you. He loves to show you a way out of your problem, and He's very perfect in turning your hearts, that of your spouse and yours, especially your spouse's heart. If your spouse is the one upsetting you and you take your problem to God, He has His own beautiful way of turning your spouse's heart to think rightly and to favor you. The Bible says the heart of a king is in God's hand, and He turns it to wherever it pleases Him. God can turn any stony heart to soften. He can turn your spouse's heart to please you, and that makes Him God. There is an effective way to communicate your feelings successfully without grumbling or disputing with your spouse or against your spouse. The Bible says in Philippians 2:14, do all things without grumbling or disputing. Effective communication isn't hard at all. In fact, there are a few steps you can follow in order to communicate effectively with your spouse, and that will also help you to resolve your problems successfully. And these steps, like I said, will help you minimize the possibility of conflict in your marriage. You have to learn how to communicate your feelings first instead of blowing up. Communicate that which bothers you. Expressing the feelings first is vital because your feelings are not in doubt at all. Your spouse will definitely recognize that you are worried about something, and if you are soft in conveying that which bothers you, it will help your spouse to understand your own point of view and help you by and help you relieve your emotions by calmly talking things out with you. Okay, feelings are your true emotional state, so is welcomed. The reality of what is happening to you, you are trying to convey, that's acceptable. So you just have to, is okay to convey that which upsets you. It's okay to when you to express your anger, but there are some, there are some mindful way, there are mild way of conveying that which bothers you, and that will help both of you stay out of conflicts. So you must get to a relatively calm and organized state before initiating any discussion with your spouse in order for the conversation to turn out successful. Once you're less nervous, find a neutral moment to talk with your spouse. Once you're less nervous, you have to find a neutral moment to convey that which upsets you with your spouse. And both of you can iron things out successfully and amicably. When you start this way, it engages your spouse, your partner, in a conversation with you, in a smooth conversation with you, rather. This often involves naming your core emotion. Core emotion here means what underlies the reactivity. For example, you're likely feeling hurt or sad beneath the anger and frustration. It can also be about how you think you how you view your problem, how you think that you're being viewed by your partner. It can complement and it can conflict. It can serve as a conflicting pattern within you, thereby making you to blow up. This might be something like you believe you're unimportant to your spouse, and that shouldn't be. You shouldn't think that way. Starting the complaints this way reduces the chances of a fight starting. The complaints will also come across less as a criticism. You're making it about you, not just blaming or grumbling. And you have to learn how to be specific when communicating with your spouse. Once you state how you feel, you can begin to describe the specific behavior or situation that is bothering you. You'll be able to healthily communicate with your spouse. Describing the exact behavior also keeps the focus where it should be. Instead of attacking your spouse, you're expressing dislike for a particular way he or she acts or something he or she does. For example, for examples of specifics are things like showing up late, not keeping a promise made to you by your spouse, leaving dirty clothes over the floor. It can aggravate anger. You also should focus the most on what is really changeable, because people have flaws. Your ability to tolerate your spouse's weakness and embrace more on his strengths or her strengths and abilities can help you. When you are focusing more on your spouse's strengths than his or her weaknesses, it helps you to stay it helps you to have good understanding of yourselves and move forward, overlooking that which um your spouse does to you that you don't really like. So you should focus the most on what is really changeable. All relationships have some unsolved problems. Usually, this involves individual character. So you don't ask someone to change something that is impossible. Like I said, you just have to learn how to tolerate your spouse's weakness. All right, people have their strengths and their weakness, and that comprises of their personality traits. You will learn that in the course too. So you have to accept those things. You have to learn how to say what you need and not grumbling over what you need. Ask for a particular behavior that your spouse can do to make things right for both of you. The key is to make it something positive and doable for both of you. You should be able to envision your spouse physically doing those behavior you desire of him. This will help you to have solution to your problem on time. Examples of needs are showing up on time, following through on what you promised your spouse that you do for him or her, and putting dirty clothes in the hamper, putting it all together. Let's say your complaint is about spending time together with your spouse. If you put it all together, you might say something like this: I feel neglected, feeling. This has to do with feeling. I feel neglected when you don't make an effort to plan date nights for the both of us. That's, you're complaining about his or her behavior, and this has to do with your spouse behavior aspect. Some can be mended, some you'll learn to tolerate. You can proceed by saying things like, I would like for you and I to plan something once a month. That's need. You're conveying your need. Offer to make changes too, because you also have flops. This piece is optional but can add even more power to your complaints. You can ask your spouse if there is anything he or she would like for you to change about yourself, because most times he or she might be seeing things about you that they don't like and wish that you change. So when you ask if there is anything you need to work on, it will give them happiness, it will give delight to your spouse to know that you actually want to improve. So you may proceed to ask what might be bothering, you may proceed to think what might be bothering your spouse, or even ask them. With this, however, you must make every effort to follow through on the change as well. So, as your spouse is striving to change, you are also improving your personality. You are trying to change to be able to come to positive terms with your spouse. For a long time health of your marriage, you have to embrace changes that will benefit both of you. The most difficult part of using this formula will be to not get emotionally triggered, so that your complaint is still really coming through as a harsh criticism. This is crucial because research has found criticism to be one of the top predictors of divorce. Complaining effectively provides a better chance for you to be heard and responded to by your spouse or even anyone else. This minimizes the likelihood that your spouse will feel the need to defend. He or she would rather not strive to defend himself or herself. It can as well shut down or counter complain back to you. It increases the chance of reaching a resolution together. All couples have complaints about each other, certainly, of a certain and of its truth. Successful couples have figured out how to adequately state their complaints to each other. They have also learned to accept some parts of their spouse that they realize will not be able to change. And finally, they also know how to keep the big picture in mind by not overly focusing on the negative things that bothers them. Now, this is the end of this course. Let's go to the next. And thanks for being part of it. I am going to do something. I will try to also upload this.